Hello, my name is Ian, and this is a history project about the early republic. We will go over a couple things, main ones being the Northwest Ordinance, the War of 1812, the Whiskey, and the Shays Rebellion. I hope you guys enjoy. I spent a lot of time making this. Bye bye. Just to preview on what I'm saying, the early republic was a period of time where a lot of stuff was changing, and it was after the ratification of the federal constitution, which happened in 1789, into 1815, which was the end of the War of 1812. Almost everything that happened in the early republic shaped the United States to be how it is currently, and most of the events that happened can still be referenced in modern day. Let's start with the Northwest Ordinance. After the United States Revolution, the United States was suffering big time. States were overlapping, settlers were moving in before clarification, and violent conflict over land and economics. We needed money, and we needed good land. What we did is we found a two-part solution. We would continue to create the Land Ordinance, which would survey and sell land in a grid, and the Northwest Ordinance, which was in 1787, which helped create a government and a path to statehood. This would help organize everything. But fear not, that's not all it did. It also gave us more religious freedom and helped with our education, as it set aside land for public schools. You know, those things that we go to every once and then. Also mentioned in Article 3, one of the quotes being, "Schools and the means of education shall forever be encouraged." It is surprising that they want us to learn. If we didn't have the Northwest Ordinance, most of our life would kind of suck. You would not be able to have the freedom of your religion, and unusual and cruel punishments would be dished out most of the time. And you know, Judge Judy would never exist, because trial by jury would not exist. It also banned slavery, but it just made criminal slaves, which is interesting.
Ow! I'm really mad!
There were two major rebellions in America's history, and the first one that we will go over is Shays' Rebellion because it happened first in chronological order. Picture yourself as a farmer in this time. You just got done fighting a war, and nothing is going good for you. You didn't get paid, stuff is getting taken from you because you didn't pay your taxes, and you thought taxes would be settled after beating the war. Nope. You'd be angry. And so that is how Shays' Rebellion was beginning. It was angry veteran farmers who wanted justice. So what do you think angry veteran farmers do when they are being oppressed, like they were in the war? They fight back. They were fighting the government. They were trashing public official areas. They were going haywire. Now, the government at first could not stop this, but eventually they did raise a militia. But this rose one question. What the absolute frick is our federal government doing? Our federal government is too weak to stop a rebellion. What would happen if we were to fight a war now? People knew we needed that change. Shays' Rebellion was just the event that caused people to open their eyes and realize, hey, maybe if we can't respond to a couple of farmers, how are we supposed to respond to an army that wants us dead? But do not worry, folks, we still have the other rebellion to go over, and this is the one that made the change. The Whiskey Rebellion was a lot more simpler than the Shays' Rebellion. Hamilton had put a tax on whiskey to repay war debts, but everyone was very mad at the time because whiskey was one of their main ways of making money and food and drink. Thankfully, George Washington had so much aura, he ended the rebellion immediately by summoning a big, massive army. Two things can be said about these rebellions. Shays' Rebellion was the tipping point. It was when the people realized they needed to make a change. The Whiskey Rebellion is testing that change. It was making sure that they could fight back if there was a problem to be happened. I want to mention that all of these were under the Articles of Confederation and not under the Constitution. Now we begin our last and most important part of the early republic, the War of 1812. This is the event that as soon as it ended, the early republic was coming to an end. The War of 1812 wasn't caused by a singular reason. There was multiple reasons that eventually combined together to make one big reason to start the war. One of the reasons the war was caused was because of the British, like most of our problems. The British were forcing sailors they found to join their Royal Navy and also blocked trade routes while doing so. As you can imagine, this was not good, okay? We need money from our trade routes and we need our sailors, but they were taking them and forcing them into their Royal Navy. Another reason was that since they stopped overseas trade, the US had to fight back and also stop their trade and then reopened trade with everyone else. And it was a whole fiasco. Everyone was trying to avoid trading with the other person. And what this caused was merchants struggling and smuggling increasing, which they did not want. Merchants wanted a clean area. Another cause was that when the settlers moved in, the natives were still there. And so when this war happened, the natives were trying to seize the chance and go on the enemy's side so that they can seize back their land. Because they were still their own independent people. They weren't like buddy-buddy with America. No, they took their land. They were angry. And so they wanted to side with the current villain so they could seize their land back. The United States was not prepared for this war at all at first. They relied heavily on militias and had little to no actual army that was trained. Their enemy had one of the most biggest navies too, so you can imagine how daunting it was to fight against them. On land, our battles were often messy. We lost Detroit and our invasions of Canada failed. We were losing supplies and we were losing hope. As soon as we got to the sea though, we locked in. We had beaten the HMS Gruyere, like the cheese, which was a big British boat, and it was such a big morale boost. Now, of course, it didn't win us any badges or anything. We still were not done with the war, but it gave us enough gumption and hope to keep fighting. We were slowly getting momentum to beat the war. We had also won another battle by the name of the Battle of Lake Erie, which continued our momentum. Unfortunately, the British did burn down some public government buildings in Washington, D.C., but that did not stop our courageous hearts. We kept going. Our persistence throughout history and our fight for what's right is what has made us who we are today, and the United States reflects that. Throughout history, we've fought against so many different opponents, yet we have always overcome those setbacks, and that is what makes us strong. Eventually, after the battles, we had proven our strength, and then we signed the Treaty of Ghent, which is what officially ended the War of 1812. But that didn't stop us from fighting, though. We had then fought the Battle of New Orleans, which we won. We won. After we won that, we just continued to thrive. We had this surge of nationalism because we survived. We won this war. U.S. leaders were also focused on strengthening the economy and defense, and Federalists weakened after the Hartford Convention. Everything was going America's way, and frankly, I believe that this point of time is the most inspiring. Everyone was happy to be in this nation. Everyone was excited. Everyone had a future that they believed in. This is where I rest my case. I just want to thank everyone for watching this video. If you are my history teacher, you could probably skip this part. I spent a lot of time making this, and I have a lot of bloopers that I want to upload. One right here. I will probably upload them sometime next week or so. It's just random clips. I probably won't edit it either. Mr. S, please give me an A.